every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred, tongue, and people and nation. Now, according to the book of Revelations, Christ has not returned yet, but here's somebody they calling a lamb. They saying they've been slain for the sake of all of the people around the world, but Christ haven't came back yet in the timeline of the text. You got to pay attention, because your preachers don't want you to know this is how they discover if a false Christ is present, because he won't know the answers that I'm about to give you. So when you go through the book, you find that the Christ don't appear personally until chapter 21. It's saying, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea. Right? And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, mark that. It didn't say like the great jewels of the king. It said adorned like a bride for her husband, but there's several breaks with commas in there, which means there's a whole set of ideas being woven together. And in the studies in the temple would tell us to pay attention to the breaks. So it's telling you some different things. Now, in order to determine what this is, we got to read a little further. And it said, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. So now, if the tabernacle of God, which is the Son, as they say in the book, is with men already, who is this coming out of the heaven adorned like a bride? Right? Okay. And he will dwell with them. Now, this is the one they say in the tabernacle of God, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. This is not a substitute. It's not a prophet. This is not a messenger. God himself. But who is it in this New Jerusalem adorned like a bride? This is what we got to pay attention, because there's two things going on, and they got y'all thinking it is one person, but it's two people. It's the Queen of Heaven and Earth and her son, what they call the widow's son, which they call Hiram, which we finna go into a little bit deeper here. All right, now. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. So that means that all that stuff they just said, I'm telling you, this is true and faithful. Now notice, the New Jerusalem coming down like a bride, but this dude already right here. Now watch what happened next. In verse 6 it said, and he said unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is the thirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Now, this is the New Jerusalem character talking about the God that's going to be on earth, that's going to be your God forever, saying that that person is going to be the God of that God. And that God that's saying this is sitting on the throne saying, this is my son. It's right here in the book. Verse 7, chapter 21. That's 3 sevens. So you got the 3 sevens to the 4 7. He that overcomes shall inherit things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But we ain't done yet. I'm finna show you how it's two different people. Now watch what happened. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable murderers and the whoremongers, the sorcerers and the idolaters and all liars shall have their part in that lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, and which is the second death. Now watch this. And there came unto me one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. Now remember who the Lamb was. The Lamb was the dude that opened the book. Book of death, or the book of the knowledge, and the book of life. Book. So they said one person was going to read it. So I read it. So now here we go. I'm going to show you how I go. Now we didn't figure out that there's two people that's being masqueraded as one Christ. Now, can we prove this anymore? If you get a Strong's Concordance and you look up the word Jesus in Greek, you're going to see the word I-E-S-O-U-S as the Greek word for Jesus. And that pronounced is Isos or Isus. Now, when you got to apply the rules of grammar, you have to break it down according to the rules of grammar. The capital I silences the E that follows. So you got I straight to the S. Then you have the O and the U, which makes the U have the long sound because it follows the O after the consonant. So you are actually saying by pronunciation, I sus. All right. So the word that they telling you is Jesus is a clue right there with the letter J. Now, how do you know this? King James' name was not originally King James. And we know that the prophecy said that James would be made a fisher of men. So they created the J specifically to translate the Bible. That's an attention getter. But what happened when you straighten that J out? When you got to think in the terms of secret societies trying to be upright. If you straighten that fish hook out, you get an I. And in the word James in Greek is Ionis, which means the fish. So that's your clue. There's something here is an anomaly to be looked at. And the only thing that stands out odd is the letter J being created for the translation. So now I got to examine the history of the J, and it stopped at 500 years at the translation of the Bible from the Latin to the English. So now if it's 500 years old, then how can I be saying Jesus is 2,000 years old and I'm a follower of Jesus the Christ? I have to be following somebody else. So was there anything in the Bible that would lead me to say that the name that they would be giving us may be the wrong name on purpose in order to deceive us into calling on something that don't exist? There's a verse in there where the disciples come to and say, I have cast out devils, healed the sick, raised the dead, all in your name. And they say, and the Christ turned and said, get thee hence, I know you not. Now they specified they done it in their name, and the Christ specified, I don't know who you are. They believed that they was doing something in the name of the Christ. And the Christ still said, I don't know who you are. The only way that can happen is they got to be using the wrong name. Because they said the power is in the name. So if they were using the correct name, the Christ would have acknowledged them unless the name wasn't correct. So look at the name again. So now, they give you 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But when they dig up the Nag Hammadi library, they find more gospels. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Martha, the Gospel of Mary of Magdala, the Gospel of Judas Iscariot, the one they say betrayed the Christ. All these things, they still don't tell you the truth. So we're going to get into that, the lie and the truth, and how they know false Christ. So every time they see a guy that they want to condemn, like Manson never claimed to be Christ, but they accused him of claiming to be the Christ in order to persecute him, because then he grew the beard and everything, because in order to preserve his life, he had to play the role at that point. But he never said he was the Christ, or he never said he was Jesus. But every time, they always know that if somebody say they Jesus, they blow up on him and say he's lying, especially if he started a massive following. That's because they know that the character that we call Jesus is not a man. That's Isis, right? That's the queen of heaven and earth. You know, so I'm going to look over in the comments in case anybody got any questions at this point, because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Yeah, share it. Yeah, share it. Okay. So, damn. Okay, so now in the book, they have you believing that it's one person, because the person that tell you that ISIS is one person and the Son of Man is another one didn't tell you why. The Son of Man is a derogatory term used to refer to Heru or Horus, or the son of Isis, only begotten of the mother. And they call him Son of Man because he was supposed to be born in an immaculate, semen-free birth, an immaculate conception, a clean conception. He wasn't no semen involved. It was parthenogenesis, which caused the war in heaven eventually, because all of those hater gods, those lesser gods that thought they was able to do what the queen can do, found out that they can't, and they don't have permission to do things on her level anyway, because they don't have no mitochondrial rights. The mitochondrial rights is the right to pass the heredity through the mitochondrial line first. And that's what made it be a big deal by her producing the child. There's nobody to contest the inheritance, in which they tried to hold it up for thousands and thousands of years, but it's time to pay the piper. So when y'all see this book, and then this book, and you know, this is the work. When you do a PhD, you got to be able to show the work. So when the elders come to me, I got to be able to show the work. But not only do I got to be able to show the work, I got to make it plain enough for a baby to understand it. So I did the reverse order. You know how you go do research, right? And you take your notes and then you write all of your thesis. And then you tag your notes in there. Well, I did exactly the opposite. I took the page that would be my notes, photocopied them, and I wrote my research analysis as I went through the process. See, that's even, because now I don't have to say, I found it there. Here's a picture of it. It's right here. This is what I'm reading. You can analyze it, and this is what I'm seeing while I'm analyzing it, and this is the effect that I'm getting from it. Some of these things is just so amazing to me. Like, I have found a picture of Sophia Loren before the Sphinx, and I analyzed her name, Sophia Loren, and found out that it literally means Sophia, the wisdom of the great mother, and the Loren, or the parcel of laurel trees, or what they would call in Gaelic a Rodney. Ain't that something? It's got my name by translation, and that's how you, when you reading the signs. And then in this one, it's in this one. Well, I ain't gonna do all of that. But when you're reading the signs, you run across anomalies. So you got to know how to read the synonym, the homonym, antonyms. You have to know how to read the anagrams. You got to know how to read the third count, the seventh count, different counts according to your life path number. Then you have to be able to apply the numerology. But when you get through in the revelations, you find that this queen, because if you look at the stela in Egypt, only the queen can crown the king. And you look at it, there was a mitochondrial heir that predated the son, which was the daughter. We call her Neith. So you see Isis and Neith together putting the crown on the head of the son as they crown him King of Kings, Lords of Lords. I thought I got a picture of it in here. It's one of these. Gotta have a picture of that. When you see the crowning of the king ceremony, every that's why every pharaoh, as they call them, in why every one of the pharaohs had a coronation with two women crowning them. They symbolize the upper and the lower Egypt. See, now this is like the notes. Like when I was looking at the picture of Sophia Loren, but if you see up here in the corner, on this corner, I got little notes written where I'm writing down the names and the meaning of the names. And then even this one got my amazed expression when I seen that it was the place of the laurel trees or the Rodney. That kind of like threw me for a loop. And then I was going through other stuff, like my one of my godmothers was May Francis, and May 5th when the cathedral got zapped by the ship. That kind of took me for a loop because it was a sign that I was looking for, because that's where they killed Jacques de Molay. And oh, might be at the end. Yeah, here we go, right here. So when you're looking for the crowning ceremony in the hieroglyphics, this is what it looked like. This is what they describe in the book of Revelations. Now you notice right here, you got Horus in the background because this is becoming an avatar, so to speak. But now here you have the two queens. You know, you have the queen mother and then you have the queen Neith. So these two right here are crowning him, Horus, Heru, King Horus. She's crowning him actually Pharaoh, but he's embodying the avatar of Heru, the warrior god. So at the time that this one is being embodied, the nation is getting ready to go to war, and they're crowning him, and they're calling the ancestral force that Heru represents in the defense of the people in the nation, in the defense of the crown right here. See, when this energy transfer, now if you notice here, you see the square lines over here. See the square lines, and then over here you see the square line. So that's telling you the flow of the energy. And if you looked at the square lines, they have them enclosed as you follow the square lines in like a box. So that's the energy transfer right there. They showing it to you. It's right there in the stela. This is the coronation that they describe in Revelations. This is where the story comes from. It comes from, the whole story is another reprint of this is the original. And it's repeated time and time again throughout the ages according to what's needed. Sometimes it's not Heru standing there. Sometimes it's Set, which means total destruction coming. or sometimes it's thoth, which means that we need to figure this out in a more diplomatic or in a wiser manner.